The daily life of the immortal king is set in the year 4386 of the cultivation calendar in Huaxiu country. All Huaxiu residents cultivate and enjoy life changes, from cultivation technology and harmony and health, until the devil frog attacked the country one day. When all the residents ran frantically to save themselves, a boy was seen walking leisurely towards where the devil frog was. Meanwhile, the magic squad is immediately assigned to deal with the onslaught of the devil frog, which begins to destroy everything in its vicinity. One of the magic squad members, a man named Zhu Yi, tries to save the boy who doesn't seem to realize how dangerous the situation is. After bringing the boy to safety, Zhu Yi immediately rushed back to the battlefield to fight the devil frog. Because he managed to defeat the devil frog alone, Zhu Yi then earned a reputation as a hero. 10 years since the incident, the boy who was saved by Zhu Yi, known as Wang Ling, is now a teenager and a new student at Faction 60 High School. But because Wang Ling's spiritual strength was very low, namely 5, he was immediately targeted by his seniors. In the bullying, a beautiful girl named Sun Rong appeared to help Wang Ling and managed to humiliate the bullies, so they immediately ran away from there. When Sun Rong wanted to get acquainted and shake hands with Wang Ling instead gave her money as an expression of gratitude for helping him. The scene then switches and shows all the new students who will take a spiritual strength test to determine their class placement. Those who are talented will enter the elite class, while those whose test scores do not meet the required qualifications will be placed in the regular class. In the exam, the new students seem surprised to learn that they are required to fight the devil frog that destroyed the city 10 years ago. However, a teacher told the disciples that what they would be fighting was not the real devil frog, but an embodiment of its spiritual power. The disciples were asked to attack the devil frog's head so that the assessment team could gauge their respective spiritual strengths. Seeing that the first participant failed to attack the devil frog due to being blown away by the devil frog's spiritual power, Sun Rong concluded that disciples with low spiritual strength would not have a chance to attack the devil frog. After several disciples failed, a young man named Chen Chao, who had a spiritual power level of 938, finally managed to land a blow on the devil frog's head and was placed in the elite class. Likewise, his best friend, a young man named Gu Hao, who has a spiritual power of 886. On the other hand, the devil frog apparently absorbs the spiritual power of the disciples who attack him every year and plans to escape after gaining enough power to break the seal. When it was finally Sun Rong's turn, she was not only able to strike right at the devil frog's head, but was also able to make the spiritual beast shift slightly from its place. Because it has a spiritual power level reaching 2019 number, Sun Rong will certainly be placed in the elite class. However, when Wang Ling entered the examination arena, the devil frog seemed to shudder in fear, because apparently the person who had defeated the spiritual beast 10 years ago was not Zhu Yi, but Wang Ling, who was only 6 years old at the time. Wang Ling intended to enter the regular class, so he didn't really mean it in the exam this time, even as much as possible to restrain his strength. However, before Wang Ling landed a punch, suddenly there was an explosion in the test arena and the devil frog sprawled there. Wang Ling looked confused because he hadn't actually made any attacks yet. Seeing the incident through the monitor screen, Gu Hao estimated that Sun Rong actually managed to launch a crushing attack on the devil frog, so that Wang Ling could defeat him easily. However, Sun Rong didn't think so, because she didn't see the shield around the devil frog as shown earlier when the disciples tried to attack the devil frog. On the other hand, Wang Ling finally realized that the devil frog was only pretending to be dead to avoid his attacks. But because of that, he was placed in the elite class instead. In the elite class, Wang Ling was in the same class as Sun Rong, Chen Chao, and also Zhu Hao. That day, their homeroom teacher, an old woman named Pan Shenchong, taught the first summoning technique, in which students were required to make a seal or cast a certain spell to perform the technique. Every spiritual beast they managed to summon was a reflection of the spiritual power they possessed. After listening to the teacher's explanation, Chen Chao and Gu Hao then practiced summoning techniques, but what appeared was not what they expected. The other disciples also tried the technique, but currently only Sun Rong was able to do it, even though she was only able to summon a spiritual stray dog. Since Wang Ling was the only student who had not yet practiced the summoning technique, the teacher ordered him to do so immediately. Wang Ling sighed. Actually, he didn't want to do summoning because he didn't want to bring in high-level spiritual beasts. But he had no choice, so he was forced to summon, which instead caused a huge explosion and brought the devil frog in front of him. Pan Shenchong panicked for fear of the devil frog hurting her disciples, then combined the stray dog spirit summoned by Sun Rong with the devil frog, then sealed it with a special spell. After that, the devil frog turns into an adorable green dog and does not harm the people around him. The scene then switches and shows Wang Ling's past, where when he was born, Wang Ling was already up and running. It didn't stop there. Wang Ling had also realized the tremendous power he had since he was a toddler and chose to hide his strength from his parents. However, in the end, his parents found out about the strength he had when he witnessed how Wang Ling defeated the devil frog so easily, even though he was only 6 years old. Since then, his parents have tried various ways to restrain his great power, so that Wang Ling can live a normal life like other humans in general. To contain his strength, Wang Ling was required to swallow a golden pill, although in reality, the pill didn't have much of an impact. Wang Ling, knowing the struggles of his parents who did various ways to allow him to live a normal life, then decided to be alone and not attract the attention of others, so he didn't have to expand his strength. The scene turns to the present. The elite class turns out to be holding an election for class president, where Chen Chao and Sun Rong are the candidates running for class president. The two of them did a lot to convince the other disciples to vote for them. Wang Ling, who was not interested in it, then went to the canteen to buy his favorite snack. But apparently, Sun Rong's male bodyguard is trying to get votes to support Sun Rong as class president by treating the elite class students, Chen Chao and Gu Hao, who knew about this, then protested that bribing other people for support is cheating. But then, Sun Rong came there and tried to convince Chen Chao and Gu Hao that she just wanted to help her friends and treat them wasn't cheating. But Chen Chao still didn't justify her actions, so Sun Rong became annoyed. Unexpectedly, Wang Ling said that he would give Sun Rong 5 votes if he could take 5 packets of his favorite snack. Sun Rong then agreed and told everyone that her actions were only because she wanted to help them and hoped to be able to help more if she was successfully elected as class president. After that, Sun Rong did the technique of the art of seduction on Chen Chao and her classmates so that they would always be fascinated by her and not go against anything she wanted. After that, Sun Rong's male bodyguard told her that Wang Ling gave a golden pill as an expression of gratitude. When a male teacher was about to enter the elite class, the man looked surprised, so he changed the course material that day and explained about the ancient arts of confinement, the so-called seduction to use incantations with hand seals to project spiritual force on other people, so that turns them into your fans. Hearing this, Sun Rong seemed restless for fear of being caught using this technique. The teacher then told that thousands of years ago, an immortal called himself Little Wise Guy, who was also the first to practice the art of confinement, namely by giving gifts and chanting certain spells. Meanwhile, to be free from the influence of the technique takes enormous power or kills the person who uses the technique. After listening to the teacher's explanation, Wang Ling realized that Sun Rong had done the art of confinement technique to their classmates. However, even though Wang Ling received Sun Rong's gift, he was not entangled in the technique, because he gave the golden pill as an expression of gratitude. Sun Rong, who misinterpreted Wang Ling's hand signal, swallowed the golden pill, which caused her cultivation power to drop so drastically that the spell disappeared, and the disciples returned to their full senses. As her strength decreased drastically, Sun Rong then felt her body weaken so that she almost fell when she got up from her seat. Luckily, Wang Ling swiftly helped Sun Rong so that she wouldn't fall to the floor. But then, Wang Ling let go of his grip on Sun Rong and cast the incantation of the art of confinement technique on the teacher's orders. After class ended, the election for class president was immediately held and Chen Chao was elected as class president. After school, the teacher seemed to contact a man and talk about Wang Ling. It turned out that the teacher was talking about Wang Ling with Zhuo Yi. Sun Rong still looks annoyed in the evening because she failed to become class president. However, Sun Rong suddenly thought about Wang Ling because she was actually under the influence of the art of confinement spell that Wang Ling had spoken about earlier. The next day, the elite class students were asked to bring furnaces for alchemy lessons. Chen Chao looked confident because he brought the huge furnace of his ancestry to make many golden pills and amaze Sun Rong. On the other hand, Wang Ling, who realized that Sun Rong was still under the influence of the art of confinement spell, then freed her from the spell, But this made everyone misunderstand and Sun Rong became very embarrassed. In alchemy class, Pan Shenchong then explained how to make the golden pill, and the students began to follow her by preparing the necessary ingredients, then putting them into the furnace they brought with them. Gu Hao looked surprised to see Sun Rong, who actually brought a toaster, while Wang Ling actually brought a microwave. However, Gu Hao was very confident that he would be able to refine the perfect golden pill with the furnace he had worked so hard to obtain. On the other hand, the devil frog, who was now in the form of a dog, realized that Gu Hao's furnace was actually an essential spirit, so he intended to eat it. At the same time, Chen Chao's furnace exploded due to the wrong way of ignition. Chen Chao, who was afraid of being scolded by his father, then ran out of the classroom crying. Since cooking the golden pill in the furnace took 7 hours, Pan Shenchong asked the disciples to wait outside. After everyone left the room, the devil frog immediately devoured Gu Hao's furnace. But his action was caught by Wang Ling, who then chased him and managed to catch him. Meanwhile, Chen Chao, who was running around the field, was reminded of his promise to his father to get a perfect score in his lessons on making golden pills. After that, Gu Hao, who saw Wang Ling carrying the stove, misunderstood and demanded an explanation, while pointing a gun filled with poison liquid at him. On the other hand, Chen Chao, who was frustrated, became so vulnerable that his body was possessed by a demon. When Chen Chao was about to search for Sun Rong's whereabouts, he met Wang Ling and Gu Hao, who accidentally shot the poison liquid into Chen Chao's mouth. Chen Chao then fell unconscious. Feeling guilty, Gu Hao tried to make an antidote and asked Wang Ling for help before their teacher found out. Whereas Wang Ling could easily heal Chen Chao with his strength. Long story short, Gu Hao and Wang Ling managed to make an antidote pill with a little help from the devil frog. However, since their teacher and classmates would soon return to the room, Gu Hao then asked Wang Ling to tidy things up, while he tried to slow them down. When Pan Shenchong inspected Gu Hao's furnace, she was very surprised that Gu Hao had successfully refined the golden pill. Gu Hao thought that Wang Ling had sacrificed for him by exchanging his golden pill and was instantly moved. Even though Wang Ling didn't do anything, Gu Hao managed to make the golden pill. Meanwhile, Wang Ling hid Chen Chao, who was still unconscious, inside his big furnace. After that, Chen Chao, who had already woken up, noticed the presence of Gu Hao and Wang Ling by his side. They had apparently repaired Chen Chao's huge furnace with the help of the devil frog. Chen Chao immediately burst into tears after realizing that it was Wang Ling who turned out to be very good to him. Unbeknownst to the three of them, Zhu Yi and Master Wang seemed to be observing them from a distance. A few days later, while at school, Sun Rong confidently approached Wang Ling and asked him out on a date with her. However, Wang Ling did not respond to Sun Rong's words because his attention was focused on the 2 masked people watching them from a distance, who apparently planned to kill Sun Rong. Because Wang Ling didn't say anything, Sun Rong misunderstood and thought Wang Ling agreed to date her. The news of Sun Rong and Wang Ling's closeness immediately spread on social media and was known by everyone, including the masked gang leader who wanted to kill Sun Rong. The leader, who turned out to be a woman named Zhang Luyin, then ordered her men to retreat and thought of another way to kill Sun Rong. After that, Wang Ling was asked to meet Zhu Yi, where Zhu Yi begged him to be his teacher. But then, Wang Ling used his power to erase Zhu Yi's memory because it would be very troublesome if he had to teach someone, especially if that person was a Huaxu hero. Long story short, Wang Ling was finally forced to comply with Sun Rong's request to date her, because she came to his house and managed to persuade his parents with a luxurious gift. Sun Rong then took Wang Ling to the playground, where she had rented the entire playground area to date Wang Ling more freely. Sun Rong even ordered all of her bodyguards to leave because she was sure Wang Ling would care for her. Unbeknownst to them, the masked assassin gang was already there and immediately launched their action. But Sun Rong could easily thwart an assassination attempt on her, thus making the assassins almost want to give up because they always fail. But then, they managed to corner Sun Rong and Wang Ling in the windmill arena. Since Sun Rong was willing to sacrifice herself to protect himself, Wang Ling had no choice but to show his strength in front of Sun Rong. After successfully taking down the masked assassins, Wang Ling asked Sun Rong to promise to keep his great power a secret from anyone. so that he would not have to erase Sun Rong's memories. On the other hand, Zhu Yi, who was also there to watch over Wang Ling, seemed relieved that Wang Ling had managed to eliminate the threat that endangered Sun Rong's safety. Meanwhile, masked killers who turn out to be members of the Shadow Faction, the most respected assassin organization in the crime world, are punished by their leader for failing to carry out their duties. The next day at school, Sun Rong doesn't really remember that the masked killers cornered her and Wang Ling when they were on a date. Zhu Yi then told her that he and the magic squad had secretly incapacitated the masked assassins, so that Sun Rong and Wang Ling could go on their date freely. Zhu Yi then told Sun Rong that she was still being targeted by the Shadow Faction, so he increased the security at the school by assigning a special forces unit to guard the school gates. Zhu Yi then got the help of Sun Rong's father, who sent elite trained bodyguards who would keep Sun Rong safe inside the school building. Not only that, but Zhu Yi also assigned the magic squad to patrol the air to anticipate sniper attacks from a distance and possible attacks from the air. To complete the security against Sun Rong, Zhu Yi then asked Sun Rong and Wang Ling to take cover in a room that had been installed with a protective spell, so that not just anyone could enter there. Inside the room, Sun Rong and Wang Ling were accompanied by Chen Chao and Gu Hao and Master Wang, who would serve as their bodyguard. However, the Shadow Faction has sent its best team of assassins to infiltrate the school building. One of them was a man named Xu Feng, who was able to knock out an entire army of guards at the school gates and in the school grounds. Knowing that the guard troops had been paralyzed, Zhu Yi immediately acted by sending another army. Meanwhile, another member of the Shadow Faction, a man named Su Ying, managed to infiltrate the school building and incapacitate all of Sun Rong's bodyguards. But then, Xu Ying, who was a poison expert, was surprised by the attack from Master Wang. On the other hand, the Shadow Faction also sent its best assassin, a man named Xin Jian, who was able to completely hide himself and disappear from the sight of others. Xin Jian managed to trick the magic squad team, which was patrolling the air, and was gathering his spiritual power to destroy the protective spell that sealed the room where Sun Rong was. Meanwhile in the room, Wang Ling won an event and was rewarded with a large box containing his favorite snack. Elsewhere, Master Wang was engaged in a fierce battle against Xu Ying. However, Master Wang could surpass Xu Ying with his strength, so Xu Ying decided to flee the fight by tricking Master Wang. But then, Wang Ling accidentally dropped Xu Ying when he was about to go out to pick up his order, so Master Wang managed to catch Xu Ying. Meanwhile, in the school grounds, Xu Feng ran into the devil frog, thinking that the devil frog was an adorable ordinary dog. Xu Feng approached him without hesitation. However, the devil frog then bit Xu Feng's hand and absorbed his spiritual power, causing Xu Feng to become weak and become an old man that the devil frog could easily defeat. The scene turns back to Wang Ling. When he was about to take his order outside, he noticed Xin Jian's presence, who was in invisibility mode. Wang Ling then told Xin Jian that the assassination plot against Sun Rong had failed because all of its comrades had been dropped. Hearing this, Xin Jian was furious, especially since Wang Ling could see it when he was in invisibility mode. Xin Jian then slammed his huge hammer, which had tremendous spiritual energy, towards Wang Ling. Even though it caused such a huge explosion of light, Wang Ling was not scratched at all, and it was Xin Jian who was seriously injured. Not long after, Zhu Yi appeared there, and Wang Ling immediately created a false memory for Zhu Yi, namely by making him the person who had defeated Xin Jian. After that, Wang Ling pretended to be injured, so that no one would suspect him. Meanwhile, Sun Rong, who panicked because she thought Wang Ling was seriously injured, then sent sophisticated tools to Wang Ling's house to speed up his healing process. However, Wang Ling's mother, who found out that Wang Ling was only pretending to be sick, then asked when her son would return to school. Not long after, Sun Rong, Chen Chao, Gu Hao, and the Devil Frog came to Wang Ling's house to see him. Since Sun Rong was planning to inject Wang Ling with stamina-enhancing fluid, he finally stopped pretending to be sick and said he had recovered. Chen Chao then told his friends that Master Wang gave him a special bracelet that could measure a person's spiritual strength and told him to give it to Wang Ling. Chen Chao then practiced the workings of the spiritual bracelet in front of his friends and explained that the bracelet could measure tremendous spiritual power. Elsewhere, a group of students from Faction 59 High School measured their spiritual strength using the same bracelet. A student named Tang Jingji managed to achieve the highest spiritual power points and was ranked first in the list of cultivation school disciples scattered throughout the country. Because of this, Tang Jingji and the students at his school were very confident that they would be able to win the spiritual sword competition that would be held soon. However, Tang Jingji and his group became worried when Sun Rong managed to get second place, with strength points not much different from Tang Jingji. Meanwhile, Wang Ling, who felt cornered by Sun Rong's constant urge for an injection, finally couldn't help but use the bracelet and expend some of his strength. But as it turned out, even though Wang Ling only expended a glimmer of his strength, he managed to create a spiritual energy sphere beyond Earth in size. So Wang Ling had to transport it into space. However, the bracelet was able to detect the presence of the energy ball and showed a null result in Wang Ling's strength, which meant that his strength exceeded the value limit in the system. As a result, Wang Ling immediately occupied the top ranking and shifted Tang Jingji to second place. Tang Jingji and his friends who knew about it then wondered about Wang Ling and why he managed to occupy the top ranking even though his strength level was null. One of Tang Jingji's friends, a girl named Xiao Bi, suspected that something had gone wrong with the system. Not wanting to be the center of attention after topping the rankings, Wang Ling asked Gu Hao for help in hacking the cultivation school system and changing his grades. Gu Hao then agreed to this because he also thought there had been an error in the scoring system. Elsewhere, Tang Jingji enlisted Xiao Bai's help to do the same, to determine if there had been an error in the system that had put Wang Ling in the first place. However, they didn't find anything that indicated that the system assessed Wang Ling's strength correctly, which was that Wang Ling's strength was indeed immeasurable because it might be too great, but Tang Jingji didn't just believe it. Xiao Bei then realized that someone had also hacked into the database system and tried to change their values. On the other hand, Gu Hao, who managed to hack into the system, found Tang Jingji's database. Gu Hao then thought of Tang Jingji, who actually went to the same school as him. When he was about to change Wang Ling's grade, Gu Hao accidentally activated a warning alarm in the system, so he had to get out of there before the school board found out. In the end, Gu Hao didn't manage to replace Wang Ling's score, and he remained in the first place. Elsewhere, Tang Jingji was discovered by his other friends that he was hacking the system with Xiao Bei. They then ridiculed Tang Jingji for thinking that he was about to change his grades. Xiao Bei then told Tang Jingji to prepare for the spiritual sword competition next month, where they might face Wang Ling and Sun Rong from the top 60 faction. The next day, Pan Shenchong and Master Wang talked about Wang Ling, who managed to occupy the top rank, even though his grades were always low in all subjects. Master Wang explained that Wang Ling and Sun Rong would enter the spiritual sword competition because they were ranked in the top 10. Not only that, but Faction 60 will also fight against Faction 59 in the first round of the competition. From 24 matches against Faction 59, their school suffered 23 defeats and 1 draw, where the draw was obtained after Zhu Yi managed to hold them to a draw. However, in this competition, Zhu Yi seemed confident in the strength of his disciples. Elsewhere, Tang Jingji and the disciples of Faction 59 High School were training for the competition. Since their school was one of the strongest cultivation schools in the entire country, Tang Jingji then seemed confident that he could win the competition. Tang Jingji then told a female reporter who interviewed him that he was looking forward to the match against Sun Rong, the heir to a famous company. When the reporter asked about Wang Ling, Tang Jingji said that he hoped Wang Ling was really strong because he was able to rank first. Meanwhile, Pan Shenchong seemed to firmly reject Master Wang and Zhu Yi's plan to enroll Wang Ling, Sun Rong, Chen Chao, and Gu Hao in the spiritual sword competition, because the 4 of them were junior disciples. However, Master Wang said that the value of their spiritual power was much higher than the senior students in their class. However, they still lack 1 more participant because the requirement to enter the competition is a team of 5 participants is required. Master Wang and Zhu Yi had planned everything by including the Devil Frog as the 5th participant. It turned out that there were no special rules against spiritual beasts from participating in the spiritual sword competition, so the Devil Frog could enter. While Zhu Yi wore a bracelet to measure the Devil Frog's spiritual strength, Master Wang registered the Devil Frog under the name Ha to enter the competition. Zhu Yi whispered to the devil frog that he would let go of the chains that were holding him back if their school won the competition. The devil frog's spiritual strength actually reached 5,000, so he managed to rank second and overtake Tang Jingji. Seeing this, Tang Jingji again received insults from his schoolmates for being beaten by a dog. In the evening, when Wang Ling and his friends were doing their respective activities at home, Master Wang contacted them simultaneously. He informed them that the four of them would participate in the spiritual sword competition with the devil frog. Therefore, Master Wang asked all of them to prepare a sword to be used in the competition. Chen Chao showed Lin Chao's sword that his father had forged since he was born. Meanwhile, Gu Hao showed him the sword made from the teeth of the night demon tiger that he had had for 8 years. However, neither Chen Chao's sword nor Gu Hao's sword had yet to show the sword's spirit. After that, Sun Rong showed her sword called Ocean, where the sword had already issued a sea blue spirit. Sun Rong explained that her family had made 13 ocean swords just in case she lost her sword, as if not wanting to lose to the others. The devil frog then showed his sword. Master Wang then asked the disciples to be patient in practicing their spirit swords, because mastering them had several stages. For that, the first thing they had to do was establish a good relationship with their sword spirit. Meanwhile elsewhere, Tang Jingji met his principal, a woman named Sei, to ask permission to include a young man named He Bufing into his team to fight Faction 60. He Bufing is a delinquent student at the school, but he possesses quite formidable strength and terrifying nature. On the other hand, Wang Ling was reluctant to participate in the competition because he didn't want his great power to increase and cause mass panic. However, after knowing that his friends and teachers considered the competition very important, Wang Ling couldn't help but have to participate. When Wang Ling went downstairs to retrieve his spirit sword, he saw a television broadcast reporting an ambush by the Riot Squad and the Magic Squad team into the Shadow Faction headquarters. They knocked out some of the Shadow Faction members guarding the lower floors while fierce battles continued. At the same time, Zhu Yi arrived at the scene and confidently told the reporters that he would defeat the Shadow Faction leader and disband the criminal group. Meanwhile, Jiang Luiying, who saw the news broadcast on television, seemed annoyed that Zhu Yi underestimated her. Turning back to Wang Ling, he then headed to the attic to retrieve his spirit sword. The next day, Wang Ling and his friends gathered in front of the school to prepare for the 5-day competition. Chen Chao and Gu Hao looked down on Wang Ling's small sword. However, the devil frog realized that the sword possessed immense spiritual power. When Zhu Yi and the teachers came, they asked why Wang Ling didn't bring anything. Wang Ling apparently intended not to participate in the competition by pretending to have a stomach ache, so he didn't bring any equipment like the rest of his friends. Not long after, a member of the Magic Squad team came to see Zhu Yi and whispered something to him. Zhu Yi then left and told them all to head to Faction 59 High School. Zhu Yi received news that the leader of the Shadow Faction had been captured. However, when Zhu Yi and his men were about to interrogate the woman, suddenly there was a huge explosion, and it was revealed that it was Jiang Luiying's trap who was following Sun Rong secretly. Arriving at Faction 59 High School, Wang Ling and the other students were greeted by the principal, Master Qi. Master Qi seemed to have a personal grudge against Pan Shenchong, because the moment the two women met each other, the aura of rivalry between them radiated very clearly. Master Qi quit Faction 60, which she thought only relied on Sun Rong's wealth to cover the shortfall in their school budget. However, Pan Shenchong brought up Master Qi, who was willing to do everything to persuade Sun Rong to go to Faction 59. Pan Shenchong immediately recognized one of the participants from the Faction 59 team, who turned out to be a delinquent student. He often got into trouble with police officers for committing acts of violence that threatened public safety. But then, Master Xi suddenly launched an attack on Wang Ling to measure his spiritual power. And how shocked Master Xi was when she found out that Wang Ling had such a low grade. Wang Ling, who thought of a way to find an excuse so that he could pretend to be sick and not enter the competition, finally took advantage of the moment. But apparently the attack from Master Qi broke the mystical seal on his neck, so that he accidentally released a little of his strength, which then stunned everyone with such a powerful explosion of spiritual power. This was possible because the spiritual energy of the sword spirit named Jink, which was so formidable, had caused slight damage to the seal on Wang Ling's nape, and Master Xi's attack had completely broken the seal. If allowed to continue, then Wang Ling would not be able to control his great power, and would instead endanger the entire universe. Seeing Wang Ling's staggering condition, Sun Rong was irritated and scolded Master Xi. Meanwhile, Tang Jingji assumed that He Bufeng was the one who would cause the violent explosion of spiritual energy. On the other hand, Zhang Luwing received news that her plan to kill Zhu Yi and all his men had failed, because Zhu Yi managed to stop the bomb. Seeing that Sun Rong cared so much for Wang Ling, Zhang Luwing seemed to come up with another idea to complete their mission of killing Sun Rong. Wang Ling, who pretended to be sick, was then brought into the school area for treatment. Sun Rong, who wanted to accompany him, was suddenly stopped by Tang Jingji. He Bufeng, who had been watching them from the school roof, then launched an attack on Wang Ling, which instantly set him on fire. Luckily, Master Xi immediately took quick action, so that Wang Ling received first aid. Sun Rong was even more furious to see this. She then pulled out Ocean's sword and drew it at Tang Jingji, saying that she didn't want to join Faction 59 because they always cheated. Master Wang immediately intervened with Sun Rong and Tang Jingji, telling Sun Rong that participants were prohibited from using swords outside the arena. Master Qi then asked her disciples, as well as the team from Faction 60, to head to the training ground to prepare for their match. On the other hand, Wang Ling apparently used a bit of its strength to escape from the infirmary. Because of that, the seal is getting damaged and Wang Ling is forcing himself to use his spiritual power. Then it is certain that the seal will be destroyed along with the entire universe, because of the enormity of Wang Ling's power. Therefore, Wang Ling contacted his father and asked him to come to Faction 59 High School to repair the seal that held back his great power. Hearing the threat that could endanger the lives of all living beings in the universe, Wang Ling's father rushed there to prevent a catastrophe from happening. Turning to the training ground, Master Qi then explained the rules of the spiritual sword competition, where in the arena, there were 5 altars: metal, wood, earth, water, and fire. Participants are required to plunge their swords into the 5 altars. When a spirit sword is stuck on the altar, its spiritual power will automatically be measured. The team that reaches 100 points in the match will be declared the winner immediately. Tang Jingji then told the Faction 60 team that there were only 4 of them now, and would be disqualified when the actual match started. Gu Hao said that the Faction 59 team also only had 4 people. However, not long after that, suddenly He Bufeng appeared dramatically and immediately approached Sun Rong while offering her a rose. He Bufeng then offered to join the Faction 60 team, because they were short on members. Hearing this, Master Xi became furious, and thought He Bufeng was about to defect. Because He Bufeng kept trying to annoy Sun Rong, Chen Chao attacked him. Yet Chen Chao could be easily knocked down by him. Chen Chao, who was unyielding and so passionate, was then being targeted by He Bufeng, who had terrible strength until Chen Chao lost his arm due to his fight against He Bufeng, which was completely unbalanced. At the same time, Wang Ling appeared there, saved Chen Chao, and restored his arm using restoration magic. However, because Wang Ling used his spiritual power, even the seal on the back of his neck was on the verge of being destroyed, and so was the entire universe. Master Wang, who observed He Bufeng's fight, concluded that he used negative energy to fight. If his negative energy came into contact with someone else's spiritual power, then the negative energy could destroy a person's spiritual power, even obliterating the user's body. Because He Bufeng had trained his strength for so many years, his negative energy became more dangerous. Due to the appearance of Wang Ling and He Bufeng at the training ground, the formation of the 2 teams was already complete, and Master Qi asked all of them to rest before facing the competition that would take place soon. On the other hand, the fight between He Bufeng and Chen Chao was also witnessed by Zhang Luwing. Meanwhile, Zhu Yi seemed to know that the Shadow Faction leader was in Faction 59, because Sun Rong was also there. The scene turns back to Wang Ling. He decided to buy his favorite snack, which was only sold at Faction 59 High School, and told Sun Rong that he would soon follow them to the break room. Zhang Luwing, knowing that Wang Ling was going somewhere alone, then devised a plan to harm him. However, before carrying out her plan, she was spotted by He Bufeng while sneaking up on Wang Ling. He Bufeng could easily tell that the woman was not a Faction 59 disciple, even though she was disguised as a student. Even he could guess the woman's age and mocked her because she refused to date him. Zhang Luiying, who was furious at being called an old woman by He Bufeng, then landed a hard fist on He Bufeng's face. Knowing that the woman in front of him possessed great strength, He Bufeng became excited to fight with her. But He Bufeng was no match for the leader of the most feared criminal organization in Huaxu, and he could easily be defeated with a snap of a finger. At the same time, Wang Ling accidentally appeared there and saw He Bufeng, who had just been defeated by a mysterious woman. Wang Ling was immediately caught by Zhang Luiying and taken to the roof of the school building with He Bufeng. Zhang Luiying then asked an old man, who was her personal chauffeur, to keep an eye on He Bufeng and Wang Ling, while she carried out her plan to kill Sun Rong, in which she would disguise herself as He Bufeng and kill Sun Rong during the competition. Knowing that Zhang Luiying was the leader of the Shadow faction, He Bufeng immediately told the old man about his interest in joining the Shadow faction. The old man had expected He Bufeng to say that, so he told He Bufeng that only Zhang Luiying could break their bond. An irritated He Bufeng then tried to confront the old man by mocking him and questioning his level of spiritual power. At first, the old man had no interest in displaying his strength, but since He Bufeng had irritated him, he showed a little of his strength, which immediately made He Bufeng speechless. Wang Ling and his spiritual sword also realized that the old man was not a random person and possessed considerable spiritual power. On the other hand, Zhang Luiying, who had disguised herself as He Bufeng, then came to them and told them that Wang Ling had been kidnapped. Zhu Yi, who was already there, confirmed the kidnapper's characteristics as Zhang Luiying. Knowing that the Shadow faction was involved in the kidnapping of Wang Ling, Sun Rong's personal bodyguard immediately took Sun Rong into custody because her safety was their top priority. However, Sun Rong did not just stay silent when Wang Ling was kidnapped because he was a very important friend to her, so she was determined to save Wang Ling no matter what. Sun Rong then asked her guards not to be cowards and embarrass her family's big name, and asked them to fight by her side, helping her save Wang Ling. Impressed by Sun Rong's passionate spirit, her guards and her companions were amazed at her and decided to fight with her. Sun Rong and her bodyguards rushed to the old school building where Wang Ling was being held by the Shadow faction gang. Knowing that an attack would soon be aimed at him, the old man then used his strength to punch a hole in the school's roof and hid the unconscious He Bufeng in the classroom below. After that, the old man pulled Wang Ling to a higher gallows for them to see. When Sun Rong and her bodyguards fought against the old man, Xiao Bei, who was watching them from a distance with her friends, then told Tang Jingji that He Bufeng was acting strange. Tang Jingji apparently realized that too and asked Xiao Bei to keep an eye on He Bufeng. The old man then took out his mainstay technique, namely the dragon cavalry, to deal with attacks from Sun Rong's bodyguards. However, Sun Rong could easily disrupt the dragon cavalry's attack to protect her guards and everyone below.
Go away.
Master Wang, who knew how great the dragon cavalry's technique was, assumed that the old man was no ordinary person. On the other hand, Wang Ling's father, who finally arrived in front of the gates of Faction 59 High School, knew of an ongoing incident and looked worried for fear that Wang Ling's seal would be completely shattered and annihilated them all. But he couldn't do anything, because he was barred from entering by the riot squad assigned to secure the arena. The scene then switches to the past and shows the old man who is with Zhang Luiying, who turns out to be his pupil. Back again to Sun Rong, who seemed to be pressed against the dragon cavalry's attack alone. However, when the old man was about to kill Sun Rong, suddenly Zhu Yi came and immediately saved Sun Rong. Zhu Yi then asked the old man to surrender, but the old man refused, so a fight broke out between them. With his strength, Zhu Yi was able to push the old man down, and finally managed to knock the old man down. But as it turned out, the old man was just pretending and was about to carry out a plan, in which he would sacrifice himself by blowing himself up with Zhu Yi, who was nearby. However, the devil frog managed to absorb the explosion and save Zhu Yi. On the other hand, Zhang Luiying tried to kill Sun Rong, but her attempt was stopped by Sun Rong's bodyguards. Long story short, Wang Ling was finally rescued and things were safe again, so according to regulations, the spiritual sword competition would still be held at Faction 59 High School. Wang Ling was asked about the hole nearby. Realizing that if He Bufeng wasn't found, the competition would be cancelled, Ling told them that the hole was already there before the fight. Ling had apparently asked his spiritual sword, Jinky, to hide He Bufing, who was still unconscious, so he wouldn't be found before the competition started. Ling then asked Jinky to keep an eye on He Bufing there and ensure he didn't run away. However, the spiritual sword competition was finally held the next day, because Jiang Luwing was still disguised as He Bufing to carry out her plan to kill Sun Rong. Ling couldn't help but enter the competition, even though he was half-hearted and his seal was about to be broken. Right after Ling entered the arena, his father came to hand over a new seal and some golden pills. Zhu Yi, who recognized Ling's father, went to him and greeted him respectfully. Ling's father then told Zhu Yi about Ling's seal being almost completely broken, which could jeopardize the universe's safety. Meanwhile, in the arena, Xiaobai already knows who is guarding the altar. The metal altar was guarded by Chen Chao, the water altar was guarded by Sun Rong, and the fire altar was guarded by the devil frog, where He Bufing was already there to ambush the devil frog. Since the Faction 59 team was in the west, Tang Jingji then confirmed that Ling was close to the wooden altar in the east. Hearing this, one of the team members of Faction 59, a young man named Liang Fei, then rushed to the wooden altar area to defeat Ling and take control of the altar. Meanwhile, Gu Hao was hiding behind a large boulder in the ground altar area, where the members of Team 59 had gathered. To win the competition, Tang Jingji planned to master 3 altars. Gu Hao seemed to heave a sigh of relief when he found out that Tang Jingji and company were about to leave. But then, Tang Jingji thrust his sword at Gu Hao, which turned out to be the Shinigami puppet that Gu Hao had prepared for the match. Gu Hao, who was hiding somewhere, seemed excited after realizing that the Faction 59 team was actually very strong and clever. Thinking that Ling would be in trouble if he faced Liang Fei alone, Gu Hao rushed over to help him. Meanwhile, Chen Chao, knowing that the Faction 59 team had taken control of the Earth altar, rushed to the metal altar to plunge his sword. However, Chen Chao did not realize that he had been caught in Xiaobei's trap of underestimating her. Xiaobei turns out to have the ability to control other people with her artificial invisible barrier net that can control the nervous system of anyone caught in the net. The teachers who witnessed this thought that the attack was very cruel. However, Xiaobei did not break the rules, so the competition continued. Elsewhere, Jiang Luwing disguised as He Bufing seemed overwhelmed when fighting the devil frog as it absorbed its spiritual power every time it made an attack. Feeling full of the amount of spiritual energy that had been absorbed from Jiang Luwing, the devil frog then left and rushed towards Ling's place. Meanwhile, Liang Fei, who had already arrived at the wooden altar, saw Ling lying down and thought he was dead. However, Ling was still alive and then got up when he heard the devil frog's words. Liang Fei then prepared to launch an attack on Ling, but the attack was repelled by Gu Hao, who arrived there to help Ling. A fierce battle ensued between them. Sun Rong, who was trying to control a water altar, suddenly got a surprise attack from Tang Jingji, but she managed to fend him off. Tang Jingji then discussed the relationship between his family and the Sun Rong family that had existed for thousands of years. But Sun Rong was sick of Tang Jingji always playing dirty to achieve his own interests. The two of them then engaged in a fierce battle because each possessed a sword spirit in the form of a human and extremely formidable spiritual power. Tang Jingji seemed confident when he found out that the metal altar and the fire altar had been successfully mastered, so this time the Faction 59 team took the lead in the match. Tang Jingji, who already knew that He Bufing was Jiang Luwing, then asked her to help him face Sun Rong, because he knew that Jiang Luwing's goal of infiltrating the match was to kill Sun Rong. Sun Rong questioned why the Faction 59 team could know the movements of her friends. Tang Jingji then explained that Xiaobei could detect a person's spiritual power from a distance, so she could know their location and movement. Sun Rong then prepared to attack Tang Jingji with her signature spirit sword technique, Ocean Dance. However, Tang Jingji had anticipated the technique and then took out a blowing snow move to break Sun Rong's spirit sword technique. However, Sun Rong did not lose heart and was determined to defeat Tang Jingji before He Bufing arrived. Sun Rong seemed overwhelmed by Tang Jingji's attack, especially after he froze the lake water, making it difficult for her to move. Not long after, He Bufeng finally arrived there and directly launched an attack on Sun Rong. Luckily, Sun Rong could dodge the fatal attack just in time. But He Bufeng's attack made it even more difficult for Sun Rong to move, so she was now in a desperate position. At the same time, suddenly there was a violent explosion of negative energy, which was able to shake the arena and free Sun Rong from Tang Jingji's ice trap. While everyone looked dumbfounded and wondered what had happened, Sun Rong took the opportunity to escape from there and hide somewhere. Tang Jingji then ordered Zhang Luwing to find Sun Rong's whereabouts while he stuck his sword in the water altar. Tang Jingji said he didn't care about Zhang Luwing's true identity. Tang Jingji said that he would help Zhang Luwing get what she wanted, as long as she was willing to do as he said. With Tang Jingji sticking his sword into the water altar, the Faction 59 team managed to master the 5 altars and was declared the winner. But then, someone from the Faction 60 team managed to defeat Liang Fi and take over the wooden altar from him. Xiao Bei then tells her friends that Liang Fi was defeated by something strange and mysterious. On the other hand, the teachers who were watching the match from the monitor screen seemed very surprised by the appearance they saw on the wooden altar. The scene then switches to the time when Liang Fi is fighting against Gu Hao. Wan Ling, who saw the struggles of his friends in the match, was touched and accidentally let out a little emotion, which then triggered the seal of power that was almost shattered. The Devil Frog, who happened to be there too, immediately took swift action by biting Wang Ling's neck to absorb the negative energy released by Wan Ling so as not to harm everyone. Realizing that he could use the Devil Frog to contain his great power, Wang Ling used his magic power to temporarily fuse with the Devil Frog until he obtained a new seal. However, the Devil Frog warned Wang Ling that he would not be able to withstand his massive negative energy for long, so they had to win the competition as soon as possible, so that Wang Ling could obtain a new seal. Wang Ling, who had fused with the Devil Frog, then gave Liang Fi a small touch. However, Liang Fi was blown away so far and felt as if he was hit by a truck traveling at high speed. Gu Hao, who saw the enormity of Wang Ling's strength, seemed so excited because he thought that he had awakened Wang Ling's hidden strength. Xiao Bei, who managed to analyze the situation, then told her friends that Wang Ling had now joined the Devil Frog and possessed a very formidable strength, which was impossible for them to defeat him one-on-one. It didn't stop there. Wang Ling also managed to master the fire altar and planned to take over other altars. Knowing this, Tang Jingji then devised a plan to win the match. Tang Jingji then ordered Zhang Luwing to guard the earth altar, while another member of the Faction 59 team, a young man named Liang Zheng, would reclaim the fire altar. Tang Jingji then thought about how to win the match without facing the powerful Wang Ling. Therefore, Tang Jingji then planned to eliminate all the team members of Faction 60 and leave Wang Ling alone. After that, he would let Wang Ling chase after them. If he keeps moving and defending the altar alternately, then the Faction 59 team can win the match. On the other hand, Xiao Bei looked scared because Wang Ling was heading toward her, and he couldn't detect Sun Rong's whereabouts either. Tang Jingji then asked Xiao Bei to meet him at the wooden altar. Meanwhile, Wang Ling finally arrived at the metal altar and then woke up the unconscious Chen Chao. Chen Chao looked surprised to see Wang Ling's appearance uniting himself with the Devil Frog. However, after learning that they had managed to lead the match by mastering the 3 settings, Chen Chao looked overjoyed and hugged Wang Ling. Getting compliments and hugs from his friends, Wang Ling subconsciously smiled, and Chen Chao was overjoyed to see Wang Ling smiling for the first time. However, the one who was happiest seeing the faint smile on Wang Ling's face was his father, because his father knew for certain the reason why Wang Ling always held back his emotions and feelings. His father seemed moved when Wang Ling finally smiled and had friends who cared for him. However, their team advantage did not last long, as Gu Hao was forced to flee from the wooden altar after Xiao Bei and Tang Jingji came there. Sun Rong then explained to her friends that this time's match could not be won by fighting strength but had to use precise tactics to dominate all the altars. Sun Rong, who had already guessed Tang Jingji's plan to force Wang Ling to use his strength and eliminate the other Faction 60 teams, then devised a strategy to defeat Tang Jingji's tactics. Hearing Sun Rong say that he was the most important among them actually made Wang Ling blush, which was quite surprising for the Devil Frog who was fused with him, because he always thought that Wang Ling was a cold-hearted man. Sun Rong then had Chen Zhou defend the metal altar, while she and Gu Hao tried to seize the fire altar. Meanwhile, Wang Ling will go to the water altar. Because going to the fire altar had to pass by He Bifeng, who was guarding the earth altar. Then Sun Rong and Gu Hao used water moves to pass through the earth altar without He Bifeng being caught. Arriving at the fire altar, Gu Hao tried to distract Liang Zheng, while Sun Rong would sneak in and stab her sword in the fire altar. However, Tang Jingji, who realized that Sun Rong would try to seize the fire altar, then warned Liang Zheng to keep the altar and ignore Gu Hao's provocations. Liang Zheng immediately obeyed Tang Jingji's orders. Knowing that Wang Ling was guarding the water altar, Tang Jingji and Zhang Liwing smiled as they could guess the strategy used by Sun Rong. Elsewhere, Shen Chao, who was guarding the metal altar, was surprised by the appearance of Zhang Liwing disguised as He Bifeng, where she was planning to seize the metal altar. The scene then turned to the past when Sun Rong first met Tang Jingji several years ago. Even though it was the first time they met, the hostility between them was clearly visible. This is understandable, because, since thousands of years ago, their ancestors were also hostile to each other and always fought without ever having a winner. Sun Rong and Tang Jingji then had a wits battle in foreign languages, as if they were having a very fierce sword fight. Turning to the present, Sun Rong, who was trying to master the fire altar, had to fail because Gu Hao's attack aimed at Liang Zheng instead missed and hit her. At the same time, Tang Jingji immediately launched an attack on Sun Rong and revealed his plan to win the match, where Tang Jingji asked Xiao Bei to the water altar to keep an eye on Wang Ling and ordered Zhang Liwing to snatch the metal altar from Chen Chao. Hearing this, Sun Rong looked surprised and asked Gu Hao to get out of there, while she would face Tang Jingji and Liang Zheng at once. Sun Rong then asked Chen Chao to defend the metal altar with all his might. Elsewhere, Zhang Liwing, disguised as He Bifeng, tried to confront Chen Chao by mocking him. Hearing Zhang Liwing's insults, Chen Chao was reminded of the past, where his father also often criticized and insulted his weak self. However, Chen Chao did not give up so easily because he had promised Sun Rong to defend the metal altar even at the cost of his own life. Zhang Liwing, who was annoyed that Chen Chao kept dodging, planned to expend her real power. However, she immediately gave up her intention because the match was currently being watched by many people, and it would be very troublesome if she was found out now. Zhang Liwing was forced to launch a barrage of attacks at Chen Chao to make him surrender. However, Chen Chao turned out to be very persistent when he had to protect something precious to him. Meanwhile, Gu Hao was trying to awaken his sword spirit so he could help Sun Rong. When Sun Rong and Chen Chao struggled to defeat all of their opponents, Gu Hao asked Sun Rong for help in awakening his sword spirit, because the only way to awaken his sword spirit was to instill a powerful sword spirit. Unexpectedly, Sun Rong agreed to Gu Hao's request and sacrificed her sword spirit, so that Gu Hao's sword spirit, the Fire Phoenix, could rise up and help them defeat the Faction 59 team. On the other hand, Xiao Bei felt a surge in spiritual power that was so great that it came from Gu Hao. With the power of the Fire Phoenix sword spirit, Gu Hao could help Sun Rong defeat Tang Jingji and Liang Zheng at once and master the fire altar. Seeing Sun Rong willing to sacrifice her sword spirit to awaken her friend's sword spirit, Tang Jingji finally realized that Sun Rong had changed, where she became stronger when she wanted to protect and help her friends. Faction 60 then turned things around with Wang Ling, who had mastered the wooden altar. Xiao Bei, who heard this, was immediately surprised because she had been watching Wang Ling in the water altar for a long time. All of that turned out to be Sun Rong's plan to get Wang Ling and the Devil Frog to separate. While the Devil Frog disguised himself as Wang Ling and stood guard at the water altar, Wang Ling used his spiritual power, which Xiao Bei could not detect, to sneak away towards the wooden altar. Elsewhere, Wang Ling's father seems to be worried about Chen Chao's condition, because if Wang Ling finds out that his best friend is beaten up, his father is afraid that he will get out of control and destroy the whole world. The scene then switches to the past, where Wang Ling has been shunned by his schoolmates since childhood and has absolutely no friends. However, after his encounter with Sun Rong and the rest of his friends in Faction 60, Wang Ling slowly began to feel the meaning of life again by having people he really cares about and wants to protect them. Meanwhile, Zhang Liwing was already unable to contain herself and finally revealed who she really was. After defeating Chen Chao, Zhang Liwing rushed off to find Sun Rong. Gu Hao, who went to the metal altar to meet Chen Chao, looked surprised to see his best friend had been defeated and seriously injured. It was Wan Ling who finally arrived at the Earth altar and was about to master the Earth altar to win the competition. However, Wan Ling seemed to be having a hard time controlling the emotions bubbling up inside him, so he decided to let go of the grip on his sword. But then, Sun Rong appeared and grabbed Wan Ling's hand to calm him down, and finally Faction 60 won the spiritual sword competition. However, their joy did not last long as Zhang Liwing arrived there and immediately launched a fatal attack on Sun Rong, which sent her soul out of her body and shattered in Wang Ling's arms. Wang Ling instantly became furious and then shattered the seal. The devil frog who was there immediately acted to stop time, so that Wang Ling wouldn't destroy the universe. However, Wang Ling's strength was too powerful, and he could easily escape the devil frog's time and space cage, at which point he'd attacked Zhang Liwing indiscriminately. Seeing the enormity of Wang Ling's strength, Zhang Liwing finally realized that Wang Ling had been protecting Sun Rong all along. Zhang Liwing tried to fight Wang Ling, but their strength was so vastly different that her full attack was completely useless for him. Wang Ling was about to kill Zhang Liwing, but he was reminded of Sun Rong. Wang Ling tries to save Sun Rong, but it turned out that all his efforts were in vain as Sun Rong's soul had been shattered. Wang Ling burst into tears and felt very guilty for not being able to save Sun Rong. Even if he was willing to do anything and give all his strength to save Sun Rong, he was still unable to change the situation or turn back time. Because of that, Wang Ling finally decided to reorganize the world. But Sun Rong still couldn't be saved. Jink tells his master that a life that has been destroyed can't be brought back because it's destiny. Long story short, with the help and sacrifice of the devil frog, Wang Ling was able to turn back time, where he first entered Faction 60 High School. But this time, it wasn't Sun Rong who defended him from bullies, but Chen Chao and Gu Hao. Wang Ling seemed to see Sun Rong around him, but she was never there. After merging his power with the devil frog, Wang Ling did not turn back time and instead created a new world with enormous spiritual power, which slowly destroyed the real world. The scene then switches and shows the situation in the underworld, where the ruler of the underworld, King Yama, is very surprised by the arrival of Sun Rong. Not wanting to make her panic, King Yama said that Sun Rong was dreaming. Because of Wang Ling's actions that continue to create new worlds and cause chaos in the universe, King Yama decides to bring Sun Rong's soul back to life in the human world. When the world was in a state of chaos due to Wang Ling's actions, Sun Rong finally came back to life, but remember nothing. Jink, who was next to her, then explained everything that had happened. Knowing that the world will be destroyed if Wang Ling is allowed to continue, Sun Rong is determined to wake up Wang Ling no matter what. Jink then helps Sun Rong by becoming her spiritual sword. Sun Rong had to fight as hard as she could against Wang Ling's immense spiritual power. But in the end, she was able to resuscitate Wang Ling, and he seemed happy that Sun Rong was alive again. After the two of them finally met, time suddenly replayed back to the time when Chen Chao was trying to defeat Zhang Liwing. However, before Zhang Liwing could unleash her true strength, Wang Ling directly defeated her from a distance, and Faction 60 was finally able to win the spiritual sword competition for the first time. The scene then switches and shows Wang Ling and Sun Rong before they go back in time, where the devil frog explains that Wang Ling and Sun Rong will be trapped there because Wang Ling has wreaked havoc in the universe. However, there is one thing they can do to return to the past, but the consequences are very big. Namely, Sun Rong will not remember all the incidents where she confessed that she loved Wang Ling and fought hard to save the person she loved. Sun Rong doesn't seem to care about that, because the most important thing for her is to save the world and humanity. Because of that, Wang Ling and Sun Rong were finally able to return to the past and save the universe from destruction. Wang Ling saw that all his friends looked happy and proud to have won the spiritual sword competition for the first time, and although Sun Rong did not remember their struggle to return to the past, Wang Ling was very relieved that Sun Rong was able to live again. Zhu Yi also managed to capture Zhang Luiying and imprison her. Wang Ling's father then came to give Wang Ling a new seal. After that, Wang Ling asked the devil frog to return to the past, where he was being held captive by the old man who was Zhang Luiying's master for unknown reasons.